Imagine if the most powerful fat-burning switch in your body doesn't come from a special diet, a pill, or even a workout, but from something your body naturally does every single day. Right now, inside your body, two very different systems are competing. One stores energy, the other burns it. And the surprising part is this: the moment you stop eating, your body quietly flips a metabolic switch. Insulin levels begin to fall, and your metabolism shifts into what scientists call fuel burning mode. That's when your body starts drawing energy from stored fat, especially the deep fat, hidden around your organs known as visceral fat. But here's where things get even more interesting. Your metabolism isn't working alone. Your gut bacteria are also involved, and they follow their own internal clock. Eat at the wrong time, and the entire system can become confused. To understand why this matters, we first need to understand the different kinds of fat living inside the human body. Now, here's where the story takes a dramatic turn. Everything we just talked about, the protective cushioning, the helpful hormones, the immune surveillance, only works when visceral fat stays within a healthy range. But when too much of it begins to accumulate, the system that once protected you can start working against you. Think of your metabolism like a perfectly coordinated orchestra. Every instrument, hormones, immune cells, fat cells, and organs plays its own part. When everything is balanced, the music flows smoothly. But excess visceral fat is like someone rushing onto the stage in the middle of the performance and knocking over the instruments. Suddenly, the harmony is gone. The first thing that begins to break down is hormone signaling. Hormones such as leptin, adiponectin, and resistin, once responsible for regulating appetite and metabolism, start sending mixed signals. Your brain struggles to interpret hunger and fullness correctly. Your cells become less responsive to insulin. And when insulin signaling begins to malfunction, your body has a harder time managing blood sugar and energy. But the problem doesn't stop there. Remember the immune super soldiers that live within visceral fat? Under normal conditions, they remain calm, only activating when there's a real threat. But when visceral fat expands too much, these immune cells become confused. Instead of defending your body, they begin producing chronic inflammation. This inflammation quietly spreads throughout the abdominal cavity and into the bloodstream. Over time, it contributes to conditions like metabolic syndrome, insulin resistance, and cardiovascular disease. Then another problem appears. Fat cells are designed to act like storage tanks for excess energy, but when they become overloaded, stuffed far beyond their normal capacity, they start to leak. Imagine overfilling a gas tank at a gas station. The fuel begins to spill over the sides, creating a messy and dangerous situation. Something similar happens inside the body. Excess fat begins leaking out of fat cells and traveling to organs like the liver. This process leads to a condition called non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, one of the fastest growing metabolic problems in the world today. And when the liver becomes overloaded with fat, the body's main detoxification system begins to struggle. At this point, the entire metabolic system is under stress. So the real question becomes, how did modern life push our bodies into this state of metabolic overload in the first place? To understand how we ended up here, we need to look at something deeper than calories or exercise. We need to look at the environment our metabolism evolved in and the environment we live in today. For most of human history, food was not constantly available. Our ancestors didn't wake up to stocked refrigerators, convenience stores, and late-night snacks. Eating happened at certain times of the day, and in between meals, the body naturally spent long periods not eating at all. During those periods, something remarkable happened inside the body. When food was absent, insulin levels fell, and when insulin dropped, metabolism switched gears from storing energy to burning stored fuel. Fat that had been safely packed away in fat cells was slowly released and used as energy. This cycle of eating and not eating kept metabolism balanced. But modern life has quietly disrupted that rhythm. Today, many people start eating early in the morning, continue snacking throughout the day, have dinner late at night, and sometimes even eat again before bed. From the body's perspective, the signal is constant. Energy is always coming in. And when insulin remains elevated for most of the day, the body rarely gets the chance to switch into fat-burning mode. Instead, the system stays stuck in fuel storage mode. But that's only part of the story. Another hidden player in metabolism is your gut microbiome, the trillions of bacteria living inside your digestive system. These microbes are not random passengers. They operate on their own circadian rhythm, meaning they know what time of day it is. During the daytime, when food normally arrives, gut bacteria actively break down nutrients and produce compounds that support metabolism. But late at night, their metabolic activity slows down. When we eat late at night, especially close to bedtime, we disrupt this internal rhythm. Gut bacteria struggle to process the incoming food. Their ability to produce beneficial compounds like short-chain fatty acids that reduce inflammation declines. Instead of supporting metabolic health, the system begins generating more inflammation and metabolic confusion. This is one reason shift workers and people who regularly eat late at night often experience more metabolic problems. So if constant eating helped create the problem, the next logical question becomes, can restoring natural periods without food help the body repair its metabolic balance? The answer may surprise you, because the solution is not some extreme diet or complicated health protocol. In many cases, the body simply needs time without food to restore its natural balance. This is where the concept of intermittent fasting enters the picture. Despite the trendy name, intermittent fasting isn't really a modern invention. It's simply the natural rhythm humans followed for thousands of years, periods of eating followed by periods of not eating. When the body goes several hours without food, insulin levels gradually fall. As insulin drops, the metabolic switch flips again away from storing fuel and back toward burning stored energy. This is when the body begins pulling fuel from fat cells, particularly the visceral fat that tends to accumulate around the organs. One of the simplest approaches researchers often discuss is the 1-2 hour fasting window. Imagine finishing dinner around 7 p.m. and not eating again until 7 a.m. the next morning. That single habit already gives your metabolism half the day to operate in fat-burning mode. For many people, just restoring that natural rhythm can begin to reduce excess visceral fat. Some individuals extend the fasting window further. A 1-6-hour fasting period, for example, may allow the body even more time to access stored energy. This often happens naturally if someone skips breakfast and waits until lunchtime to eat. But there's an important balance to keep in mind. Fasting exists on a spectrum. On one end is gentle, time-restricted eating. On the other end lies starvation. If fasting becomes too extreme or too prolonged, the body may begin breaking down muscle tissue for energy. And losing muscle is one of the worst metabolic trade-offs because muscle helps maintain a healthy metabolism. At the same time, the gut microbiome also needs nourishment. Beneficial bacteria rely on dietary fibers and plant compounds to survive. If the body goes too long without food, some of these helpful microbes can begin to decline. So the goal is not to push fasting to extremes. The goal is restoring the natural cycle that metabolism evolved to follow. Eat, pause, burn stored fuel, then eat again. And once that rhythm is restored, certain foods may help accelerate the body's ability to burn harmful visceral fat. Once your body regains its natural rhythm of eating and fasting, something interesting begins to happen. Your metabolism becomes more responsive again. And when that happens, certain foods can start working with your metabolism instead of against it. One example researchers have studied is something surprisingly simple: vinegar. Vinegar contains a compound called acetic acid, the molecule responsible for its sharp taste and strong smell. But inside the body, acetic acid appears to influence how fat cells behave. Studies in both animals and humans have suggested that acetic acid can slow the rate at which fat cells expand. In other words, it helps prevent those fuel tanks from growing larger and larger when excess energy is available. But that's only half of the story. Acetic acid may also help activate something called brown fat. Unlike white fat, which stores energy, brown fat burns energy to generate heat. Think of it like a tiny biological heater inside the body. When brown fat turns on, it needs fuel to keep that heat-producing process going. And where does that fuel often come from? Stored fat, especially visceral fat. In simple terms, activating brown fat can help the body start drawing energy from those deeper fat reserves. Interestingly, the amount of vinegar used in many studies is not extreme. Some research suggests that even 1 to 2 tablespoons of vinegar per day, diluted in water or mixed into foods, may influence metabolism over time. Another helpful food comes from an unexpected place: pears. Pears contain a natural compound called chlorogenic acid, which has attracted attention for its effects on fat metabolism. Chlorogenic acid appears to support the activity of brown fat, but it may also encourage white fat cells to behave differently. Instead of continuing to store energy, some of those cells may begin shifting toward a more metabolically active state. Scientists sometimes describe this process as helping white fat become more like brown fat, a phenomenon often referred to as fat browning. And when more metabolically active fat is present, the body becomes better at burning excess energy. But there's another food that may influence metabolism in a completely different and surprisingly powerful way. Another food that has attracted significant attention in metabolic research is pomegranate. At first glance, it may look like just another sweet fruit filled with bright red seeds, but inside those seeds are powerful plant compounds that interact with the body in surprising ways. Pomegranates are rich in a group of polyphenols called elagitanins. When you consume them, either by eating the seeds or drinking pomegranate juice, these compounds travel through the digestive system until they reach the colon. And that's where something fascinating happens. Your gut bacteria begin transforming these compounds into new bioactive molecules that can influence metabolism throughout the body. One of the most important effects involves a particular gut bacterium called Akkermansia muciniphila. Scientists have become increasingly interested in this microbe because it appears to play a major role in metabolic health. People who are naturally lean tend to have higher levels of Akkermansia in their gut microbiome. In contrast, individuals struggling with obesity or metabolic disorders often have very little of it. Akkermansia thrives in the protective mucus layer lining the intestine, and certain compounds in pomegranates appear to support the growth of this beneficial bacterium. Why does that matter? Because Akkermansia acts almost like a metabolic guardian. It helps maintain the integrity of the gut lining, supports healthy immune responses, and appears to improve how the body manages energy and body fat. But pomegranates may influence metabolism in another way as well. As fat tissue grows larger, it needs more blood vessels to supply oxygen and nutrients. To support that expansion, the body begins creating additional blood vessels, a process known as angiogenesis. The more blood supply fat tissue receives, the easier it becomes for those fat stores to keep expanding. Interestingly, elagitanins, found in pomegranates, appear to help regulate this process. They can reduce the formation of excessive blood vessels that feed growing fat tissue. In other words, they may help slow the expansion of visceral fat itself. And when combined with a healthy eating rhythm, balanced metabolism, and supportive gut bacteria, these natural compounds can become powerful allies in restoring metabolic health. Which brings us to the bigger picture, how all these pieces work together. When you step back and look at the full picture, something remarkable becomes clear. Metabolic health isn't controlled by just one factor. It's the result of multiple systems inside the body working together. Your metabolism, your gut microbiome, your hormones, your fat cells, and even your sleep cycle are all connected in a delicate network. When that network is in balance, the body performs an incredible job of regulating itself. Energy is stored when needed, burned when necessary, and inflammation remains under control. But when the system becomes overloaded, too much food, constant snacking, poor sleep, chronic stress, the balance begins to break down. Think of metabolism like the engine of a car. When the engine receives the right fuel, enough rest, and regular maintenance, it runs smoothly for years. But if you constantly flood it with fuel and never give it time to cool down, the system begins to wear out. That's essentially what modern lifestyles have done to human metabolism. We eat more frequently than our biology expects, we sleep less than our bodies require, and we often live in a near constant state of stress that keeps our hormones elevated. Each of these factors pushes metabolism further away from its natural rhythm. But the encouraging part is that the body still remembers how to function properly. The systems responsible for burning fat, regulating energy, and maintaining balance are hardwired into our biology. Sometimes the most powerful changes come from restoring the conditions the body evolved to operate in, allowing periods without food so metabolism can switch into fat-burning mode, supporting gut bacteria with plant foods and fiber, sleeping long enough for metabolic repair to occur, staying physically active so stored fuel gets used. When these elements come together, metabolism begins to move back toward equilibrium. And as that balance returns, something interesting happens on the outside as well. Energy improves, inflammation decreases, and excess visceral fat gradually begins to decline. Which leads to the final and perhaps most important idea. True health isn't about forcing the body to change. It's about creating the conditions where the body can do what it was designed to do all along. At this point, you might start to see a pattern emerging. The body already contains the systems needed to regulate fat, control inflammation, and maintain energy. The real challenge isn't forcing those systems to exist, it's learning how to work with them instead of against them. One of the most powerful shifts begins with something incredibly simple: how much we eat. In many cultures known for longevity, people follow a principle of moderation rather than excess. In Okinawa, Japan, there's a well-known phrase, hara hachibu. It means eating until you are about 80% full, not until you feel completely stuffed. At first, this may sound insignificant, but biologically, it changes everything. When we eat past fullness, the body must immediately store the extra energy. Fat cells expand, insulin rises higher, and the metabolic system is forced deeper into storage mode. Over time, this constant surplus becomes one of the main drivers of visceral fat growth. Stopping at around 80% fullness creates a very different metabolic signal. The body still receives nourishment, but it doesn't experience the same overload. Energy can be used efficiently instead of being packed away unnecessarily. Another key factor is movement. Our bodies evolved to use energy through physical activity. Muscles are one of the largest consumers of glucose and fatty acids. When muscles contract during walking, lifting, or even light daily activity, they pull fuel out of the bloodstream and out of stored fat. This reduces the burden on fat cells and improves insulin sensitivity at the same time. Sleep also plays a critical role. During deep sleep, the body performs a wide range of metabolic repairs. Hormones reset. Inflammation is reduced. The brain and organs enter a recovery phase that helps prepare the body for the next day's energy demands. But when sleep becomes short or irregular, these processes become disrupted. Hormones related to hunger and stress increase, making it easier to gain fat and harder to lose it. In the end, metabolic health rarely depends on a single miracle solution. It comes from many small biological signals working together, guiding the body back toward balance. When you bring all of these pieces together, the message becomes surprisingly simple. Your body is not broken. In fact, it is equipped with an incredibly intelligent system designed to maintain balance, protect your organs, and regulate energy over a lifetime. Metabolism is the engine that drives that system. Every heartbeat, every breath, every movement you make depends on how efficiently your body converts fuel into energy. When metabolism is functioning properly, energy flows smoothly through the body. Fat is stored when needed and burned when necessary. Hormones communicate clearly. Inflammation stays under control. But when metabolism becomes overwhelmed by constant eating, poor sleep, chronic stress, and inactivity, the signals start to scramble. The body begins storing more energy than it can burn. Visceral fat slowly builds up around the organs. Inflammation rises quietly in the background. The good news is that restoring metabolic balance does not usually require extreme interventions. Often, the most effective changes are the simplest ones. Allow your body periods without food so it can shift naturally into fat-burning mode. Avoid late-night eating that disrupts your gut bacteria and internal clock. Choose foods that support metabolism and gut health, such as fiber-rich fruits and plant compounds. Stay physically active so your muscles can use the fuel your body stores. And give yourself enough sleep so the metabolic system can reset and repair. These habits may sound ordinary, but together they create powerful biological signals. They tell the body that the environment is stable, that energy can be used efficiently, and that it no longer needs to hold on to excess fat as a protective reserve. Over time, when these signals repeat day after day, metabolism begins to recalibrate, energy improves, inflammation decreases, and the deeper fat stores that once seemed stubborn start to slowly decline. Real health rarely comes from forcing the body into change. Instead, it comes from understanding how the body is designed to work and allowing it to do exactly that. If there's one idea that ties everything together, it's this. Your body is constantly responding to signals. Every time you eat, sleep, move, or rest, you are sending instructions to your metabolism. Some signals tell the body to store energy. Others tell it to burn fuel. Some calm inflammation. Others quietly increase it. The remarkable thing is that these signals don't operate in isolation. They combine, overlap, and reinforce each other throughout the day. For example, when you finish eating earlier in the evening and avoid late-night snacks, you give your metabolism several uninterrupted hours to shift into fat-burning mode. At the same time, your gut microbiome receives the message that the digestive cycle is winding down. This helps your gut bacteria maintain their circadian rhythm, allowing them to produce the compounds that support immune balance and reduce inflammation. Then sleep begins. During deep sleep, your body enters one of its most important repair phases. Hormones that regulate appetite and energy balance reset. Cells repair microscopic damage. Your brain clears metabolic waste. In many ways, sleep is the overnight maintenance cycle that prepares the entire metabolic system for the next day. The following morning, gentle movement like walking or stretching continues that metabolic momentum. Muscles begin drawing fuel from the bloodstream, encouraging the body to keep using stored energy rather than piling up more reserves. Throughout the day, choosing whole foods rich in fiber, polyphenols, and natural plant compounds feeds beneficial gut bacteria. These microbes help produce molecules that support metabolism, stabilize blood sugar, and protect the gut lining. Bit by bit, these signals begin to reinforce each other. Better sleep improves hormone balance. Balanced hormones make it easier to regulate appetite. A stable appetite reduces overeating. Reduced overeating prevents visceral fat from expanding further. And slowly, the body starts moving back toward the state it was designed for: efficient, balanced, and resilient. This is the deeper lesson behind metabolic health. It isn't about chasing a single miracle solution. It's about aligning daily habits with the biological systems already built into your body.